Intertwined Chaos and Tranquility in the Universe. Part 1. Chaos, Chapter 1. The Big Bang, a universe in violent birth. Let's begin with a bang, literally. Roughly 13.8 billion years ago, the universe decided it was done playing coy. In an act of extraordinary drama, part cosmic tantrum, part creative genius, it exploded into being. No warning, no dress rehearsal, no polite knock on the door of non-existence. Just bang. Now don't picture an explosion like fireworks or your microwave meal after ignoring the "do not microwave in foil" warning. The Big Bang wasn't an explosion in space, it was the explosion of space. Space itself expanded from a point smaller than a pinhead, a singularity with infinite density and zero chill. Time blinked into existence. Matter began to think about mattering. Energy strutted in like it owned the place. And nothing has been calm since. Of course, calling it a bang is misleading. There was no sound. Sound needs air. Air hadn't RSVP'd yet. So imagine instead a vast, eerie silence and then everything. Physicists describe this moment with equations that make ordinary people cry and mathematicians giggle uncontrollably. But let's not get lost in the numbers just yet. Let's appreciate the vibe. From absolute nothingness to an expanding universe filled with particles, pressure, potential, and eventually, pizza. Give it a few billion years. But here's the wild bit. All of it. Galaxies, kittens, neutron stars, your ex's Spotify playlist, came from a single point. A place with no space. A time with no time. The ultimate paradox. The original mystery. A kind of cosmic Houdini act where everything escaped from nothing. Ta-da! Now before we get swept away by awe, and we should eventually, let's talk about chaos. The Big Bang wasn't neat. It wasn't organized. It didn't unfold like a symphony. It was more like a jazz solo performed by an over-caffeinated trumpeter with anger issues. Tiny variations, imperfections in the early universe, set the stage for stars to form. Without those random fluctuations, we'd have no planets, no life, no Beyoncé. Perfection, it turns out, is boring and barren. Chaos is fertile. Chaos is kinda hot. And what about time? Time, that peculiar illusion we chase from morning alarms to evening regrets, was born here too. Before the Big Bang, asking what came before is like asking what's north of the North Pole. It's a question wrapped in nonsense, sprinkled with confusion. Time didn't start ticking, it started existing, which raises a strange thought. If the universe was born in chaos, what does that say about us, its offspring? Here's where things get personal. Have you ever had a moment where everything fell apart? Career, relationship, IKEA bookshelf, and in the wreckage, something new began? It's almost as if creation needs destruction, as if clarity is forged in the furnace of collapse. The Big Bang wasn't just the start of stars, it's the blueprint for every messy, beautiful rebirth we experience. Breakups, breakdowns, breakthroughs. They all carry the same cosmic rhythm. Pressure builds, structures collapse, and out of the rubble, something unfamiliar and essential begins to form. So maybe the Big Bang isn't just a distant origin story told by telescopes and physicists. Maybe it's the heartbeat of everything that becomes. Maybe it's inside us too. But the real kicker? The universe is still expanding. Faster and faster, in fact, thanks to a mysterious force called dark energy, which we don't understand, can't see, and politely pretend to know something about at conferences. It's as if the universe, born in violent urgency, never stopped running from the moment it was born. Like a child who flings open the front door and just keeps going. Where is it going? What's it expanding into? We don't know. And that's the part I love the most. Because even after centuries of stargazing, and particle smashing, and chalkboard scrawling equations, the universe still keeps secrets. It began with a bang and with a riddle. So here we are. You, me, and this strange expanding cosmos. We're made of stardust and questions. We're the children of chaos who long for tranquility. The universe exploded into being and we call it home. But I wonder, if everything came from nothing, what else might be waiting in the void? And if the universe needed chaos to begin, do we? Let's keep walking. There's so much more to unfold. Chapter 2. Supernovae. Death as creation. If stars had personalities, some would be introverted, quietly humming in the darkness for billions of years, radiating warmth like a reliable friend with good lighting. But some stars want to go out with flair. They want a standing ovation. They want to explode in such dramatic fashion that entire galaxies blink in surprise. Enter the supernova. A supernova is quite simply a star's final performance, and its less graceful exit and more celestial fireworks finale on steroids. When a massive star reaches the end of its nuclear fuel, it can no longer support its own gravity. It collapses inward, then violently rebounds outward in a spectacular detonation. We're talking about an explosion so bright it can outshine entire galaxies for weeks. So powerful it sends elements screaming across the cosmos at unimaginable speeds. And yes, so over the top that it would probably post a farewell video with dramatic piano music if it had YouTube access. But let's not dismiss this as cosmic drama for the sake of spectacle. There's meaning in the mayhem. You, dear reader, are made of stardust. Not metaphorically, not poetically, literally. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the gold in your wedding ring, all of it was forged in the furnace of a dying star. When a supernova erupts, it releases the heavy elements that the universe cannot otherwise make. Hydrogen and helium, those are cosmic freebies. But oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, silicon, that's the good stuff. And it comes from stellar death. In other words, we owe our existence to a cataclysm. Life on Earth is not the product of peace. It's the result of explosions, ejections, and wildly energetic destruction on an interstellar scale. You are a byproduct of violent beauty. A walking, thinking supernova remix. Isn't that weirdly comforting? Let's zoom in for a second. A typical supernova occurs when a star about 8 times more massive than our sun finishes burning its nuclear fuel. Once it stops fusing elements in its core, gravity has nothing to push against. The core collapses. The outer layers fall inward, bounce off the core, and are hurled into space in a massive shockwave. At the center, what's left behind is either a neutron star, a city-sized ball of ultra-dense matter, or a black hole, depending on the star's mass. Either way, it's like a cosmic will. The star dies, but leaves behind something strange, beautiful, and absurdly powerful. Also, if you're picturing explosions like in Michael Bay films, scale up. A supernova releases more energy in a few seconds than our sun will in its entire lifetime. It's the universe yelling at full volume, then dropping the mic. Of course, there's a philosophical angle to all this too. Supernovae are a cosmic version of the phrase, "You have to break a few eggs to make an omelet." Except the eggs are stars, and the omelet is everything. How many times in your life has something had to end, painfully, messily, so something else could begin? A breakup that taught you who you really are. A job loss that led to reinvention. A tower of comfort that had to fall for growth to rise. We resist endings. We mourn them. But the universe seems to whisper, endings are beginnings. Destruction is design. Maybe the hardest thing we ever do is let something explode and still trust that something meaningful will emerge from the debris. There's a kind of poetry in knowing that the most violent events in the cosmos are also the most creative. Imagine that. The universe burns its brightest in death. Supernovae leave behind not only black holes and neutron stars, but nebulae, vast clouds of gas and dust that become the cradles for new stars. In other words, one star's final gasp may be another's first breath. That's not just astrophysics. That's resurrection with a side of fusion. Let's circle back to Earth. In 1054 AD, Chinese astronomers recorded a guest star in the sky, so bright it was visible in the daytime for weeks. What they witnessed was the birth of the Crab Nebula, the remnants of a supernova thousands of light years away. It wasn't just spectacle, it was legacy. Thousands of years later, that explosion still echoes through space, and we're still making sense of it. That's the thing about supernovae. Their stories stretch across time, reminding us that even endings can leave fingerprints on forever. So here's a thought to end on. What if our most powerful contributions to the universe don't come from our triumphs, but from the way we fall apart? And what if, somewhere deep in our atoms, there's still the echo of a star's last breath, waiting to remind us that collapse is not the opposite of creation, but the beginning of it? Let's keep going. There's so much more stardust to uncover. Chapter 3. Entropy. The language of disorder. Let's get something straight. The universe is messy. Beautiful, sure. Mysterious, absolutely. But messy? Unquestionably. And that mess has a name. A law, even. Entropy. It's the reason your coffee gets cold. The reason your desk never stays clean. The reason you can never untoast toast. Entropy is the universe's way of saying, chill out. Everything tends toward chaos eventually. In scientific terms, entropy is a measure of disorder. In human terms, it's the quiet force behind every unraveling. The slow drift from structure to scattered. From order to oops. Imagine the universe as a hotel room. Entropy is the inevitable process by which the neatly folded towels end up on the floor, the mini shampoo bottles migrate under the bed, and the complimentary chocolate mysteriously disappears. You know what you did. It's not destruction for destruction's sake. It's just the natural tendency of energy to spread out, of things to lose their sharp edges and perfect arrangements over time. In fact, entropy is the only law in physics that truly defines the direction of time. It's why we remember the past but not the future. Why ice melts but puddles never spontaneously reassemble into perfectly sculpted cubes. Why your favorite sweater will never, under any circumstance, fold itself. Time, as it turns out, is just entropy's shadow. But entropy isn't the villain here. It's not trying to ruin your hot coffee or make your life harder. It's just honest. The second law of thermodynamics, which sounds very serious and is, states that the total entropy of an isolated system will always increase over time. That means the universe as a whole is moving toward more disorder, more randomness, more cosmic untidiness. And while that sounds depressing, it's actually kind of comforting, because entropy gives the universe direction. It's the reason there's movement. If everything stayed perfectly ordered, nothing would happen. No stars, no storms, no stories. Without entropy, the universe would be a sterile museum display. With entropy, it's a wild, living, evolving mess. And we get to be part of that. Here's the weird, wonderful twist. Life is organized chaos. Biologically, we're little islands of low entropy, temporary structures of astonishing complexity in a sea of disorder. Our bodies defy entropy every moment we breathe, eat, love, and text people back after 5 days of emotional avoidance. But we can't do it forever. Eventually, entropy wins. We age. We decay. We return to the elements. But while we're here, we're defying the odds. We're singing songs in the storm. Even our brains, those tangled knots of neurons, are experts in battling entropy. Every thought, every memory is a brief act of resistance against randomness. A fragile structure held together by electricity, chemistry, and pure stubbornness. We don't often think of living as an act of rebellion, but it is. Every time you build something, a home, a habit, a new Spotify playlist, you're momentarily holding chaos at bay. And when it all falls apart, as it inevitably does, that's just entropy doing its thing. The universe reminding you that the dance is ongoing. Let's go deeper. Entropy isn't just about mess, it's about information. The more entropy in a system, the less you can predict. It's the reason your phone's photo library becomes a swirling vortex of dog pics, receipts, screenshots, and memes you'll never look at again. Entropy increases and information becomes noise. And yet there's something almost artistic about it. The swirling patterns of galaxies? Entropy at work. The complexity of clouds? Entropy with flair. Your playlist going from Mozart to Megan Thee Stallion without warning? Peak entropy and maybe taste. Entropy isn't just disorder. It's the raw material from which creativity emerges. It's potential, not just decay. So where's the tranquility in all this? It's in accepting that we don't have to fight the mess. Not all the time. The universe doesn't apologize for entropy. It embraces it. It makes stars from chaos, poetry from particles, meaning from randomness. Maybe we should too. Letting go in the right moment is an act of grace, a kind of alignment with the fundamental rhythm of existence. Sure, tidy your desk if it helps you think. But don't panic when the papers pile up again. That's just entropy, reminding you that perfection is temporary and life, wonderfully, goes on anyway. So here's the question. If the universe is sliding toward disorder, why do we keep trying to build? Maybe because that's what makes us alive. Maybe because the music is in the tension between order and chaos. Maybe, just maybe, entropy isn't the end of the story, but the ink the universe writes it with. Let's turn the page. It's time to meet the mirror in the next chapter. Human anxiety and the cosmic mirror.